Hello, men. We're continuing to talk about how to win in secret, because if you can win in secret, you'll have public success. If you can have some private victories, you can have some public victories. We looked at the fact that David, before he could ever face Goliath, which Goliath was really the key to his promotion. It was the step for his promotion to become king of Israel, but he had to first beat the lion and the bear in secret before he could ever take on Goliath. So we're talking about how to win in secret. And this week, I want to deal with two things about how to win against sin and how to win against addictions. And we're taking a look at the way Jesus did it. Jesus spoke. He spoke to the enemy. He spoke to his situation. He spoke to the problem. And many of you know the importance. Even Jesus in Mark chapter 11 said, we've got to speak to our mountain. We've got to talk to our mountain. Men, it's so easy to talk about a problem. It's so easy to talk about a difficulty. And sometimes men will talk about, I deal with this and this overcomes me and this beats me. But Jesus didn't say talk about how big your mountain was or how difficult it was. He said speak to your mountain. And I've given this illustration. I have a man in my church. His name is Matt Tish, and he's a solid man, great preacher. And I've told you this story before. But when he first came into church and he learned these principles, he learned the importance of speaking, especially using his words. He came in, he was an alcoholic, and sometimes he'd come to church as he was working to get out of his sin and if I could say it this way, working into a sanctified life. And he'd come in hung over from partying on Saturday night, but at least he kept coming to church and he kept listening to the things that we would teach. And there were times he would look at his can of beer and he would look at it and he'd begin to speak to it and say, you're not always going to be in my life. You're not always going to control my life. I'm not always going to spend money on you. And he'd begin to speak to that can of beer. He said then he'd pop the top and drink it. But he said, there came he kept speaking to it and speaking to it and speaking to it. And finally he said there was one day he took the can of beer and threw it down and he hadn't had a drink since. So you can win. I'm here to tell you, you can win over sin. You can win over addictions if you get the right words in your mouth. That's part of it. There's some other things that may be added to it. But one of the ways you start the fight is by speaking the word of God. So this week we're going to talk about how to beat some sin and how to beat some addictions in your life.